Well, here we are, a Tony Hawk game to look forward to in 2020. It's kind of new, although I guess it's Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remade, technically. And that's exciting stuff because looking at this game, I have significantly more confidence in it than Tony Hawk Pro Skater HD that Activision tried to do back on the Xbox 360 and Steam. I still have that on Steam, even though it got delisted and moved around, and I still have it, and it's still terrible. It looks bad. It feels worse when you're playing it. It's just, it wasn't a great outing, and it felt like they seriously spent like a tiny bit of time on it and just pushed it out the door. It was very frustrating for Tony Hawk fans. So to see Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 get announced today, and it's out September 4th, so it's out in less than 4 months, which is good. It's one of those announcements, and then, hey, you don't have to wait that long. It's just coming right out. And then they showed gameplay. By the way, not gameplay, just gameplay. I'm on board. I'm excited. And if you wanted to see more gameplay outside of what they showed in the trailer, I noticed several places were starting to put up even more gameplay. Even Jack Black had actually some real-time gameplay of them sitting on the couch and just playing with Tony Hawk. So it looked good. They were playing Warehouse, and I was very happy because from what I was seeing, it looked like it mirrored more the old and original Tony Hawk games rather than them trying to do something like with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, which was, again, terrible. And the game has now gone up on several different storefronts as well, and it looks like it's $40 or $50 for like this deluxe version, I guess. I need to look into a bit more as to what comes with that, but from what I can tell, it looks like it's going to retail, I guess, for $40, which is, I think, pretty good. I think that's fair, and it seems to be falling more in line with what Activision has done previously with the Crash Bandicoot series, because they've brought in Vicarious Visions, and when you bring them in, that's how you know this is a serious remake. It's similar to what I guess I would say the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy or Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, where there's high quality there when it comes to Vicarious Visions coming in. And you know what? I have to give them credit for what they've been doing since 2010 to have these 3 games up from 2017, 2019, now 2020, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, and now Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. They've really been doing a lot with Activision now since doing Skylander stuff since 2011, but Vicarious Visions actually worked on Tony Hawk Pro Skaters even back in the day. They moved things like, I think it was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, I think, to the Game Boy Advance, and even took Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 and moved it back to the original PlayStation. So they have worked with the series and trying to get the feel correct. So it's pretty cool to see them come up now, be able to take Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 and move it up to current times. So some of the details here with this game, they managed to get most of the soundtrack. I think they said they had over 20 of the original tracks. However, not all of them could be here, and that has to do with licensing issues. I mean, the game's pretty old, so really to go back and look at both games' soundtracks and try to get all of those songs together, yeah, that's probably going to be a difficult thing to do with licensing getting thrown in there, but they did manage to get most of the soundtrack, and when they put the list of different songs up on the screen, it appears that they have most of the very memorable songs is what I'll say. Obviously, things like Superman, for example, that is in there, so it looks good. Also, it seems that the full roster of skaters is here, which is great because, again, on that HD Tony Hawk game, they didn't have that. So, of course, that means we can look forward to all of the skaters we played with back in the late 90s. Obviously, Tony Hawk's there, Bob Burnquist, Jeff Raleigh, Kareem Campbell, Andrew Reynolds. They're all there. It's really exciting that we're essentially going to be stepping back in time, playing these games in current formats. And when I mean current formats, it looks like they are also going to be adding online multiplayer, as we would expect. They're going to expand on the skate park builder. So Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, they introduced the ability to build a skate park, and that was a big deal at the time, by the way. I remember people were doing some crazy stuff with it, but you of course had to go over to their house to see it, or sometimes I think they would share it through like a memory card. Like if you trusted your friend enough, they could borrow your, what was at the time, very expensive PlayStation 1 memory card to check out your park on their PlayStation. But it looks like after you build the entire park, you will be able to share it online, which is great because the goal, I guess, for a lot of people is that they can build their, as they say in their interview, after the Summer Game Fest presentation, you'll be able to build obviously your local skate park or come up with some wild and crazy stuff. So apparently Vicarious Visions really wanted to get that part right, and that's really exciting. And they're also going to pull stuff from later Tony Hawk games, like in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, they introduced the revert move, so they're going to be taking that and bringing that into Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, which will basically enable you to do pretty much infinite lines of tricks all the way through if you are good enough, of course. And that's what a lot of people want to be able to do, is to do a continuous string of moves, which basically combos in a skateboarding game, and try to string it all together for a ridiculous high score. Looks like you're going to be able to do that here. And visuals, I think this is the right direction to go in. Looking at it compared to like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, where they tried to do a more cartoony kind of look. I mean, if you really think about it, it shouldn't be too realistic looking because it's not a simulation skateboarding game. You want to kind of still make it look like it's outlandish at times when you're doing some of the moves, so a super realistic look doesn't really fit the overall tone of the game. But you also don't want it to look like this weird cel-shaded cartoon thing, and I think they struck a good balance with it just from what I've seen. Again, I need to see it in person on my monitor here at 4K. That's something they will be supporting with the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X, and I assume it'll also, of course, move up to the Series X and the PlayStation 5. It looks like they've made some interesting decisions, by the way, for the platforms while we're on that topic. It appears that it's going to be going to the Epic Game Store, I guess. I don't really know what's going on there with Steam. Maybe they got some money from Epic. We'll see as more information comes out as we get a little further, but they definitely advertised Epic Game Store in the trailer. And the big elephant in the room for a lot of people, and what was pointed out immediately on every single thread, is that there's no Switch version announced, and that is correct. As of now, PlayStation 4, Xbox, and PC. Now, this is Activision, Vicarious Visions. Most likely, it will follow up with a Switch version probably next year. I don't know if that's just because of timing and they're trying to get it out on at least some platforms right now, and the PS4 and the Xbox One are very similar. So they're like, well, we'll just get it out on these platforms and PC, and then after we're done and it's out, we can then port it over to the Switch and release it there. It's most likely that's what's happening, but I really can't guarantee that it will ever go to the Switch because we don't know much more information outside of that. I just have a feeling that they're going to look at the Switch and say, all right, some skateboarding games like Skater XL are already going there, and most likely the audience would like to have a way to play these games on the go, and we've already moved our Crash games over, and those sold pretty well, so let's see how Tony Hawk does on that side. I just think they have to pick and choose what they can do right now in terms of platforms to get out there, and having it go to the Switch would be a little more work for them, maybe for porting. Who knows? Activision's weird sometimes, but I'll say this. I'd be shocked if it never went to the Switch. Now, they will be having online multiplayer as we expect, right? And they'll also have split screen, also very, very good, as a lot of us would do split screen in these games back in the day. From what I'm just seeing here, they just want it to feel like the old days with Tony Hawk, but have quality of life improvements brought up. And that's all I really want from this, to be honest. I mean, sure, some people might want a more in-depth story like with Underground, but I think that can stay with Underground, and if they want to remake Underground, they can do that later. I don't know. I want a good feeling arcade experience with the Tony Hawk games, and if that's what they can deliver here, I'm on board. From what they've shown me so far, yeah, I'm in. I'll be checking it out. And they did say that if you pre-order the game, you'll have access to a warehouse demo, that they haven't shown a date for when it'll be available, just before the game comes out, which the game's out in September, so I guess we'll find out about the demo pretty soon, I assume. But like that's encouraging that they're ready to have a demo come out and all this. And I think it'd be better if they just released a demo flat out, like for everyone. But you know, they want to have some sort of incentive for pre-orders. But either way, I'll get my hands on the demo, I'll play it, and then I'll be able to let you guys know how the game itself feels, because that is the last question mark to me, is does this game feel good when you're actually playing it with the controller in your hands? Does it feel close enough to the original Tony Hawk's to where we can have a lot of fun with it? But after seeing them bring in Vicarious Visions, have all of the original skaters here, the solid soundtrack that we had from the originals, it feels like Activision actually cares about this game, unlike what happened with Tony Hawk Pro Skater HD. So I'm really excited. It's a good way to kick off the week, right? It's just Tuesday, and it looks like even more stuff is happening this week. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun this week, but this is really, really cool to see. Let me know what you guys think about this down below. Make sure you guys like the video on the way out if you enjoyed it. Dislike it if not, and I'll see you next time.